I probably shouldn't have been invited. If you wanted a polite anger lecture, include me out. I left my laminated count to 10 tips in my next incarnation's briefcase, the one where I'm a very tidy branch bank manager who balances the ledgers of his emotions with a pencil behind his ear. Tonight, I am not that man. Tonight, I am going to trouble you on purpose, not abuse you, but disturb you, because the peace we are after isn't the kind you get from 10 slow breaths and a lavender candle. That sort of peace is an intermission. We are going for closing night on the play called My Anger Has a Good Point. Now, I don't despise breathing. I'm quite in favor of it. If you stop, the ushers have to carry you out, and that interrupts my talk. But let us be honest, the techniques that polish our temper do not dissolve the reason we want it. I am not here to train the watchdog. I am here to ask who keeps leaving the gate open. I am not offering you anger management. I am here to expose the belief that makes anger seem necessary, as if it were a sacrament one must take to stay safe in a hostile world. Here is the hook. Anger is what happens when we grant power to something besides God. I haven't asked you to agree yet. I have only set the stage. I will not leave it at an assertion, because assertions are cheap, and you can buy them wholesale. We will prove it not by argument alone, but by an inward experiment you can repeat when the memory of my voice has evaporated like perfume in a rainstorm. No man can serve two masters, said the master. Remember that, and keep it near the pulse. If there is one power, and only one, what is it we think we are battling with? And if there are two, why are we surprised to be torn in two? Let's start confessionally, because I should not ask you to do what I haven't failed at first. I have sat in a kitchen, fictional to you, literal to me, with a kettle of resentment humming on the back burner, justifying its steam with noble reasons. The insult was unfair, the policy was corrupt, the driver was a menace to creation. And while the kettle sang, I nodded like a righteous sommelier of outrage. I had my notes. I had my pairing suggestions. This light goes well with a robust indignation. Oh, yes, I know the liturgy of anger, but every time I followed it to its altar, I found the same idol there, the belief that something out there had authority over my peace, my provision, my reputation, my body, my life. That idol is what I am after tonight. So, no, we will not busy ourselves trimming the branches of temper. We will go for the root. We will expose the hidden agreement, the two-power lie that says God is over here as Sunday talk and something else is over there as Monday reality. And then we will die daily to the self that wants the lie to be true, because it is the only self that needs anger to survive. I die daily, the apostle wrote, not theatrically, not with sackcloth for show, but quietly, deliberately, yielding that personal self that must be right, must be defended, must strike back. When that self steps down from its little throne, anger has no office to occupy. Do not worry, I will not leave you in negation. After we uncover and surrender, we will practice a replacement, not repression. We will learn a 3-beat turn from heat to stillness that restores dominion without tightening the jaw or burying the wound. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, said the Christ. Not as the world gives with 10 counts and a swallowed remark, but as heaven gives, from the recognition of one power, one life, one self. If we will stay for the whole journey, exposure, dying, practice anger will lose its authority because the throne it guarded will be empty. So take a breath, yes, but take it to remember who breathes you. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and manage your trigger. Be still and know what? That nothing besides God has claim on your peace. That is the diagnosis I lay on the table. We will lift it up, turn it over, twist the Bible upside down if we must, to see its undercarriage. And when we are through, I promise you the joke will be on anger and you will laugh, not because you won the argument, but because you lost the second master. Let us, for a moment, be honest in the way that stings and then heals. What are the scenes? You know them as well as I do because you staged them and cast yourself as the wronged hero. The insult, quick as a slap at the meeting where you were presenting your earnest work and someone decided to snicker at the one weak sentence. The betrayal, a promise broken by a friend who now speaks of you with a sideways mouth. The traffic, the sacrament of the horn and the benediction of the brake lights where a stranger's lane change declares, falsely but persuasively, your life is not worth my minute. The unfairness at work, a promotion handed to politics instead of competence, the family disrespect, that quiet, corrosive familiarity that assumes you will always be there to absorb and make nice. Each of these is a small courtroom you walk into. And anger, dressed like a lawyer, taps its papers and says, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the evidence will show. Do you know what I notice? In every case, before the gavel falls, the mind has already opened the ledger. It has columns, wrongs on the left, interest due on the right, with a line at the bottom for damages and costs. I have watched that accountant in me with his little green visor, licking his pencil, totaling the insult's unpaid balance and tacking on a surcharge for the offender's smirk. He is very efficient, this inner bookkeeper. He knows how to calculate what they owe for the minutes you lost, the sleep you forfeited, the reputation you think they dented. He whispers numbers, and the numbers add up to a verdict called righteous anger. And because we all love good accounting, 2 times 2 must equal 4. Even in theology, we nod like board members reviewing a clean audit. But hear me, and hear me as one who has had to pry that pencil out of a clutching hand. Humanhood needs that ledger. Humanhood requires it to prove its case for self-protection and retaliation. The personal self, the dear, jittery monarch sitting on that little throne, survives by arithmetic. It measures who praised, who neglected, who paid attention, who took your parking space. And since it believes itself separate and therefore threatened, it must be right, must be defended, must answer blow for blow, word for word. Eye for eye. It quotes Moses at full volume. Humanhood cannot imagine safety without counterpunches, without a raised voice, without the tingle of power that anger pretends to lend. Contrast that with the God self of us, which is not an improved human, but another order of being entirely. The God self requires no defense because it cannot be diminished. It is not a balloon you must shield from needles. It is the air itself. Resist not evil, said the Master, not as a policy of passivity, but as a recognition that what God is cannot be opposed by what God did not create. Do you see the turn? Humanhood counts injuries and pays them back with interest. The God self knows no account can be opened against it because there is no second power to sign the papers. Humanhood wears armor and grows tired. The God self wears light and cannot be dented. Now, if your anger in those scenes feels so clean, so convincing, so honest, what must you already have believed before the heat rose? That the insult had authority over your worth, that the betrayal had jurisdiction over your security, that the traffic had dominion over your peace, that the boss's preference could diminish the life that sent you into that office. That family tone could tax your joy as if it were a commodity to be collected. Tell me, and tell yourself without nodding off with piety, what power have you assigned to that face, that email, that delay? No man can serve 2 masters. If you serve anger's case, you have first hired the prosecuting attorney by confessing a second master, something out there with badges and guns over your inner country. Let us twist that Bible upside down for a second and watch what falls out. A soft answer turneth away wrath, not because soft speech manipulates outcomes, but because a soft answer is the speech of one who never left one power in the first place. Blessed are the meek, not for being doormats, but for inheriting the earth precisely because they do not believe the earth can take anything from them. Do you understand? Before anger argues, you have already crowned an appearance. You have set up a second throne next to God and begged it for fairness. And so the ledger opens and the pencil scratches and a hot virtue rises that is not virtue at all, but a sacrament offered to the idol we just anointed. I am not scolding you. I am reading my own minutes. I have balanced those numbers at midnight and felt the pride of a tidy wrath, but the arithmetic itself betrayed me because every total ended in the same red ink, separation. The books never close when you keep two powers on the page. So I ask you, gently but without compromise, in the next insult, the next betrayal, before the first flame, will you catch the prior agreement? Will you see the little crown you were about to place on an appearance? If you will, the case collapses. The accountant takes off his visor, and in that undramatic quiet, you may find the only honesty that heals. No one out there owns your peace. Only then can we talk about what to do, because only then will we be acting from the one who cannot be provoked. Do you think God is in that harsh email? Not the ink and pixels, but the sting you felt behind your ribs? Do you think the infinite chose that font to bruise your worth? Do you think God is in the driver who cut you off, steering Providence with his blinker and your blood pressure? Do you think God is in the betrayal, the sideways gossip delivered with a smile so thin it could slice bread? Do you think God is in that family tone, that tonal inheritance from 3 generations of impatience, as if holiness were hiding in a sigh and came out at supper? Do you think the Almighty slipped into the typo on your name badge just to reduce you by half an inch? Do you think love, real love, needs your heat to hold its throne? Let me stay on this, because the mind is quick to nod and even quicker to forget. Do you think God is in the market swing that bothered your savings? In the delay at the doctor's door? In the policy that forgot your dignity? Do you think the presence that said, I am with you always, is handed a parking ticket by a stranger's indifference? I am not insulting your intelligence. I am inviting your honesty. At what exact second did your heart whisper, this has power to disturb me? Was it with the ding of the phone, the changing lanes, the tilt of a head, the word unfortunately? And how quickly, almost like breathing, did it change shape into, I am entitled to react? In that instant, you wrote a new creed. I believe in God, the one power, and in this other rather pressing power which presently irritates me. Now you may object, are we to do nothing, just be doormats and call it mystical? Hear me with both ears. The issue is not passivity. The issue is discernment. Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. The brake pedal is Caesar's, the governance of your peace is God's. You may change lanes, confront a policy, decline an abusive tone, call a lawyer if you must, but do not consecrate the appearance with your fear and call it power. Resist not evil is not a refusal to act. It is a refusal to ordain the shadow. Do you see the line? The moment you name the shadow as a second master, you must fight it as if it were real authority and anger volunteers as your champion. But if you decline to knight the shadow, action proceeds without heat, clean as a surgeon's hand. Do you think Christ needed a temper to still the sea? Peace, be still. He said not to the disciples' nerves, but to the false weather in their belief. Do you think nails had dominion over the one who could say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do? Forgiveness there wasn't sentimental. It was sight that would not promote an appearance to a throne. Anger, my friends, my fellow apprentices, in dying daily anger is the mind's attempt to regain control in a universe it has already divided. First, we split the sky. God over here, insult over there. Then the mind drafts an army to patrol the border. Heat rises. Breath shortens. The loyal accountant opens his book. All because we forgot to ask the first question. Do you think God is in this? Try it right now. With the last offense you're nursing like a pet, do you think God authored that moment to edit your value? If yes, by all means kneel to it, worship it, let it write your day. But if no, if something in you knows, even faintly, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and this isn't one, then withdraw the charter you granted it. Let the badge fall off its chest. You can still write the email. Set the boundary. Change the seat at the table. But do not add incense to the altar of a second power. Judge not that ye be not judged is not about being nice. It is about refusing to enthrone an appearance and then be judged by the court you built. So I will keep asking, and I want you to keep answering in the quiet where nobody applauds. Do you think God is in that insult? Do you think God is in that driver? Do you think God is in that betrayal, that tone, that delay? If not, then who gave it power? Your consent did. Withdraw consent, and the kingdom's weather returns. Not a storm suppressed, but a sky recognized. We are nearing the heart of the matter, and I warn you gently, it will not flatter humanhood's throne. Anger is not your protector. It is the red siren that sounds whenever we have confessed two masters. Catch the confession at its birth, and you will find there is nothing left for anger to defend. Let me say it cleanly, without incense or cushions. The two-power lie is the quiet creed that says, yes, God is good, and then adds in a smaller font, but there is also another influence, other people's wills, history's momentum, moods, markets, germs, algorithms, systems and snares capable of injuring me, disturbing me, controlling my weather. That addendum is the birthplace of anger. Because once you allow two powers, you have drafted yourself into warfare. If there are two authorities, you must defend, punish, correct, tighten, manage, and retaliate. You must become a border guard over your little country, scanning every horizon for the next incursion. And when the mind hears its own bugle, anger reports for duty, with polished boots and a loud voice, pretending to be your strength. But anger is not strength. Anger is confession. It is the involuntary prayer that blurts, I have met a power I cannot trust, so I must react. Do you see? It is the signature, the watermark stamped on the soul whenever we have granted status to an appearance. No man can serve two masters, the master told us, and anger announces which two you currently serve. You will know you're in the lie when you feel the need to become large, to swell, to glare, to pound the table, because the very swelling declares you believe something out there has shrunk you. That is why the face heats and the breath shorts and the inner accountant begins issuing invoices. You are trying to buy back a dominion you momentarily sold to a second throne. Let's twist that Bible upside down and hear what falls. I am the Lord, and there is none else, cries the prophet. And it is either true on Tuesday afternoon or it is theater on Sunday morning. Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above, said the Christ to Pilate. No tremor, no heat, because no second sovereignty had been admitted. One power does not mean we approve of wrong. One power means we refuse to ordain wrong as authority. That refusal is not passivity, it is clarity. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good is not a call to niceness, but a transfer of jurisdiction. It says, take the gavel out of the shadow's hand. Act, yes, change the policy, call the meeting, terminate the contract, but do not draft anger as your chaplain and ask it to bless the campaign. Resist not evil refuses to promote a mask to kingship. It frees the hand to act without hatred's tremor. Now listen with your inward ear. Every time you explode, you have already agreed to two powers. You are not erupting because you are strong. You are erupting because you feel ruled. Anger is the scarlet flare that signals, I have enthroned an appearance and must now obey the order to strike. But where one power is realized, reaction loses its commission. You may speak firmly without heat. You may walk away without scorn. You may confront without venom. If God be for us, who can be against us? That is not a slogan for posters. It is the end of the two-power treaty. It is the quiet interior, yes, that allows you to lay down the border patrol while still locking the door at night. So here is our daily dying in miniature. Withdraw the charter you granted a second power. Repeal it the moment you feel the swell. Say within, not as magic, but as recognition, there is no other law over my peace. Then do what wisdom requires, write the letter, reset the boundary, alter the route, but do it as one who has not promoted the shadow to sheriff. When you do, you will watch anger arrive late to an office that no longer exists, and without a throne to guard, it will have nothing left to do but resign. Now let us turn the lantern inward and name the culprit with its proper title, humanhood, the personal sense of self that must be respected, must win, must be safe, must be seen. Not the living, laughing personality through which God whistles a tune that is innocent enough, but the claimant, the private monarch seated on a cardboard throne, conducting state business with a rubber stamp that reads, "How dare you?" You know that monarch. I have hosted him in my own chest. He is hungry for deference, thirsty for victory, allergic to invisibility. He is a connoisseur of slights, a gourmet of snubs, and he calls anger his royal guard. When the appearance knocks, he summons the guard to arms. My worth has been threatened. Anger, then, is not merely a flare-up of temper. It is identity defense. How dare you treat me this way translates into the quiet creed. I am a self apart from God that can be diminished. There it is, the whole sad doctrine signed in heat. We do not rage to fix the world. We rage to fortify a castle whose stones are borrowed opinions. We patrol the parapet because we have already decided we live outside the fortress of one life. But listen to the apostle. I die daily. This is not the drama of self-hatred. It is the unceremonious abdication of a counterfeit center. It is the daily surrender of the claimant, the monarch who insists on managing reality with a short temper and a long memory. Do not hear in this a call to erase your lilt or your laugh or your peculiar way of making a room brighter. God did not ask you to bleach your colors and call it holiness. He must increase, but I must decrease. Is not a funeral for your humanity. It is the dethronement of the usurper. Let the God self take the center and watch the human personality become more useful, more playful, more precise, like a well-tuned instrument in the hands of a master. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. When that becomes more than a verse, when it becomes the current that hums beneath your ribs, anger loses its portfolio because there is no private kingdom left to defend. You may test this in the smallest exchanges. The email arrives with its little barb. Humanhood reaches for the scepter. Answer, correct, prevail. But if, in that instant, you die a millimeter, one quiet bow within, you will feel the throne slide back to where it belongs. Non-reaction rises, not as numbness, but as dominion. Outwardly cold-blooded and inwardly overheated with love for God and man, you recognize the weather. You are free to speak plainly or to be silent, to act swiftly or to wait, but the action is no longer drafted by fear. Whosoever will save his life shall lose it, said the Master. Let the personal claimant save itself, and you will forfeit peace. Let it go to the cross of the moment crucified in a single breath, and you will find life loosed from the tyranny of being right. This is the most subversive thing you will learn about anger. It is embarrassed when there is nothing left to protect. Strip it of its client, the self that must be respected, must win, must be safe, must be seen, and it has no invoice to send. The world may still mispronounce your name, cut your lane, underpay your work. Caesar will be Caesar, but you will have stepped out of the little body of pride and into the vast body of love. And from there, non-reaction is not weakness. It is the scepter returned to one power. It is the quiet, peace be still, said first to the inner sea. And when the sea obeys, you may navigate any storm without borrowing one spark from anger's torch, because the throne is no longer occupied by a trembling king. Now, because some of you keep polite Bibles on coffee tables and emergency ones in glove compartments, let's twist that Bible upside down and see what tumbles out when gravity has its say. Ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. We have heard it, and we have practiced it in clever modern ways, an email for an email, a tone for a tone, a snub for a snub. But the Master refuses our arithmetic. But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil. Whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. Do not hear a dare to be a doormat. Hear the revelation that there are not two powers in the ring. Turning the other cheek is not the heroics of a jaw. It is the pivot of perception from the theater of threat to the stage of one presence. We will have to rise above our natural Hebrew leanings and our modern litigations of fairness, because Moses trains the conscience for civilization, but Christ unveils the self for heaven on Tuesday afternoon. Forgive 70 times 7, he said, which is not a math problem for pious accountants, but a prescription for sight. Forgive and forgive until there is no second power left to forgive. Forgiveness here is not the soft mist of sentiment. It is the firm refusal to grant evil reality. It says in plain language, I decline to ordain this appearance as authority. Love your enemies is not the churchly smile that grinds its molars while serving pie. It is the end of enemy making. We create enemies by granting power to shadows and then recruiting anger to fight the statues we built. Let me rephrase the Christ words in work clothes. Turn the other cheek becomes, I will not accept your behavior as a second law over my peace. I face the one. Resist not evil becomes, I decline to promote this shadow to sheriff. I can act without hating. Judge not becomes, I refuse to enthrone an appearance and then be judged by the court I invented. Forgive 70 times 7 becomes, each time the two-power thought knocks, I will not sign for the package. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, reads as, they are acting under the hypnosis of separation. I will not be hypnotized with them. How do we make this more than Sunday rhetoric? Saturate. Carry the red letters as if they were oxygen on your nightstand, in your pocket, in that little space between your morning coffee and your first complaint. Read them until they begin reading you. When the family tone arrives that always hooked your jaw, let blessed are the meek rise unbidden, not the meek of marshmallow, but the meek who inherit the earth because they do not believe the earth can steal from them. When the policy email lands with its cold vocabulary, let peace I leave with you answer the door before your heat does. We are not quoting to sound holy. We are retraining reflexes baked by bloodline and headlines, by politics and pride, until Christ-seeing becomes our native eye. Try this little practice of rephrasing in the heat of the moment. Offense appears. Say inwardly, quietly, this has no jurisdiction over the kingdom within me. Then translate a red letter into your own tongue. Turn the cheek, turn my attention. Resist not, refuse to crown the shadow. Forgive, release the charter I granted to a second power, and then act. If action is needed, change the seat, rewrite the contract, say the firm no, but let your action be the hand of one power, not the fist of a frightened two. Do you notice the lightness when you do this? The jaw stops auditioning for the throne. The heart stops filing lawsuits. Anger looks for its office and finds the door locked. Christ's words are not commandments to strain under, they are lenses. Put them on, and the two-power lie cannot be found long enough to argue with. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. A single eye does not blink at insults to decide if they are powerful. It sees through them to the one. And in that singleness, 70 times 7 is no longer a quota. It is the rhythm of breathing until only one breath is left. Now, let me take the lid off what we politely call temper and show you the altar hidden underneath. Anger is not a mood that attacks you. It is a sacrament you attend. You light its candle the moment you agree there are two powers, and then you kneel not with folded hands, but with clenched fists. Why do you go to that church? Because there is a payoff at the door. Anger promises you relief, the hot sigh of discharge, the sense that you did not let them get away with it. It offers a step stool to make you taller than the offender for a minute's superiority in a hurry. It sells you control. I can make them feel what I feel, it claims. And it hands you a badge, the right to condemn. Oh, the ego loves the uniform. How else will humanhood prove it is not small? The monarch on the cardboard throne needs ceremonies to feel royal, and anger is its favorite coronation. But the bill is in the fine print, and it is always paid in bondage. The moment you take the sacrament of anger, you are chained to the offender, the event, the story. Tie a string to your wrist and watch who holds the other end. The email you can recite in your sleep, the face at the meeting that tilted just so, the voice that said unfortunately, the driver's blinker you baptized as power. Your nervous system is conscripted into their service. Your heart beats when their name is mentioned. Your jaw tightens at a ringtone. Your breath shortens at a street. You are not free. You are employed by the appearance you crown. Ye are servants to whom ye obey, says the apostle. Obey an insult, and you become its staff. Obey the one, and you remain unowned. I must confess, I have worn the robes. I have rehearsed the comeback speech in the shower and called it justice. I have felt the sweet burn of my own superiority and labeled it courage. And then, like a man paying dues to a club that never lets him in, I noticed the trap. Every time I performed the ritual, the appearance had to be kept alive so my righteousness could have a job. Anger does not let you bury the corpse. It insists on exhumation so it can preach over the bones. Thou shalt have no other gods before me is not a slogan for stained glass. It is a diagnosis. If your peace can be stolen by an email, who is your God in that moment, infinite spirit, or a human sentence? If a stranger's lane change can govern your weather, who sits on your throne, one presence or a blinking light? Hear this bluntly, because you will not be free until you admit it. You do not have anger, you practice anger. It is a devotion. It is incense offered to a second power with the hope that the smoke will sweeten your fear. And like all idolatry, the statue takes what you give and gives you nothing back. Whosoever committeth sin is the servant of sin, the Master said, not because a cosmic policeman writes tickets, but because devotion determines dominion. Where your treasure is, your attention, your belief, your sacred, yes, there will your heart be also. Place your treasure in a grievance, and your heart lives in its house. Place it in one power, and even your body stops volunteering to carry other people's weather. Some will object, but it feels good to let it out. Of course it does for a minute, as all drugs do. Then the crash, the replay, the vindication scenes that never air, the fatigue of running a kingdom of sand. Do you see the arithmetic? The rush is rented. The debt is owned. You become curator of a museum of offenses, polishing frames so the exhibits gleam. Meanwhile, joy checks out of the building because there is no room for it among the plaques. Humanhood calls that aliveness. The God self calls it hypnosis. Let's twist the Bible upside down and let one word fall: worship. You are always worshiping. The only question is, where is your altar? If it is built to appearances, anger will be your priest. And he is an exacting cleric. He demands sleeplessness, sarcasm, ulcers, and the right to replay scenes during dinner. If your altar is to one power, non-reaction becomes your quiet liturgy. Outwardly cold-blooded and inwardly overheated with love for God and man, you are not less alive. You are finally alive without shackles. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, not as the world by paying back, by barking, by swelling because that peace is leased from the very shadow that frightened you. So let us cancel the secret bargain in plain sight. When the heat rises, catch the contract in your hand and refuse to sign. Ask with a sobriety that saves, who is my God in this moment? If the answer is a human sentence, a policy, a face, a blinker, then bow your head not to them, but to the one, and die a quick death to the claimant who needs to be right. Withdraw the incense. Take your altar back. In that uncluttered sanctuary, anger loses its vestments and stands revealed as a clerk without authority. And then, free of its liturgy, you may act clean, precise, unowned, because you have returned your worship to the only place that does not make a slave of its devotees. Non-reaction is not a trick of the jaw or a talent for stoicism. It is jurisdiction. It is the recognition, right where the pulse quickens, that you will not be governed by an appearance. Do you hear the difference? Suppression is a clenched fist in a dark pocket. Dominion is an open hand under heaven. Non-reaction looks calm, not because the heart is frozen, but because the throne has been returned to one power. Let not your heart be troubled is not a lullaby. It is a transfer of authority. The weather may rise around you, but you are no longer a barometer registering every insult's mercury. You have become, in the best sense, a thermostat set to peace, and the room must answer you, not you the room. Now, this will look strange to human sentiment, and I want you ready for the misunderstanding. Love that will not tremble on command will be called cold, outwardly cold-blooded, inwardly overheated with love for God and man. There is our paradox. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. The serpent wisdom is the exterior composure that refuses to be hypnotized by a show. The dove harmlessness is the interior flame that would spill itself for the least of these if the Father so required. When the Master said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, he was not numbed, he was aflame. But the flame was not anger's torch. It was love's sun, steady, impartial, unburned by the very nails it illumined. Peace be still did not plead with the sea. It recognized the one beneath the waves. That is non-reaction, not a weaker life, but a higher law at work. Let me draw a line as clear as noon between impersonal love and emotional pity. Pity is a tremor. It believes the lie and then tries to hug it better. It reacts, it absorbs, it condemns what it secretly fears, it is generous with tissues and sparse on truth. Impersonal love stands in the one and sees through the costume. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more is not a soft exemption. It is X-ray vision paired with clean direction. Impersonal love can walk into a ward of pain or a boardroom of arrogance and keep its inner temperature. It feeds, it clothes, it advocates, it corrects, but it never places a crown on error's head in order to have something to rescue. That is why it does not burn out. It is plugged into the mains, not running on the trembling batteries of human emotion. And hear this so you never confuse dominion with silence. Non-reaction is not the vow of the timid, it is the voice of clarity. Sometimes it speaks softly, sometimes it booms, sometimes it writes a check, sometimes it cancels a contract, sometimes it calls a friend at midnight, sometimes it calls the police by noon. But always it moves after inner recognition, never before. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. A single eye acts without the grit of hatred. It is the surgeon's hand, not the fist of a frightened two-power devotee. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, and you will be surprised how often the world hears a simple no spoken from one power far louder than a loud no screamed from fear. How then do we wear this in the street, at the desk, in the kitchen, when the spark jumps, the tone, the email, the face die a millimeter, bow within where no one sees? Recall in a whisper, this has no jurisdiction over the kingdom within me. You are not pretending, you are remembering your government. Then wait one heartbeat, not the dramatics of delay, just a heartbeat until the eye singles. You will feel it. The temperature drops while the love rises. From there, speak. From there, move. From there, act with the precision of one who does not need to be right to be effective. That single heartbeat is the difference between pity and love, between reaction and dominion, between the museum of offenses and the temple not made with hands. Non-reaction is not suppression. It is the visible sign that you have returned authority to the one power. It is the quiet announcement to the universe, my altar is no longer rented to appearances. And because the altar is reclaimed, love, real love, can govern the hand, outwardly cold-blooded, yes, to the theater of threats. Inwardly overheated, yes, to the God self in all who cross your path. This is not about looking saintly, it is about living sanely. And the sanity of heaven is this: there is one. Where you live from that one, anger has no badge to flash, and even your necessary no shines like a window in the sun. Let me put a tool in your hand that is smaller than a coin and richer than a kingdom. Do not expect fireworks. Expect a hallway with 3 doors. Walk them in order and you will feel the temperature drop while love rises. I call it the 3-beat turn from heat to stillness. It is not a breathing trick, though you will breathe. It is not mental calisthenics, though the mind will be redirected. It is jurisdiction transferring authority back to one power before your tongue or your hand volunteers to serve a second. You can do it in traffic between horns, in meetings between sentences, in the kitchen between a spill and a shouted name. It takes less time than your heat takes to choose an adjective. Beat 1, recognition. Name the surge without calling yourself names. This heat is the 2-power lie trying to reinstall itself. Do not turn the knife inward, turn on the light. Say it plainly. I am tempted to ordain this appearance as authority. That is all. No sackcloth, no ashes, just light. Neither do I condemn thee, said the Master. Do not condemn yourself for the temptation. Recognition is the gentle arrest of hypnosis. It is catching the pickpocket at your pocket and smiling because you have simply remembered where your wallet really is. In that instant, you have already stood up from the congregation of anger. The pew knows your back is leaving. Beat 2, inquiry. Ask the fast questions that pry the idol off its altar. Do I believe this has power? Do I believe God is absent here? What am I protecting? My image, my schedule, my secret need to be right. Do I think the Christ self can be injured by this tone, this lane change, this adolescent sigh? Is my peace for sale to a sentence? Whose altar am I kneeling at in this breath? Sometimes one question is enough, sometimes three. Do not hold a symposium, hold a mirror. Let the answers expose the cardboard throne on which humanhood sits polishing its medals. Who made thee a ruler and a judge? You may ask your offended self, and you will see it has no badge, only a borrowed megaphone. Beat 3, yielding. This is the hinge. Say within, with the tenderness of surrender and the clarity of law, I die daily to the personal self that must be right. I return to the God self that cannot be threatened. Not my will, but thine be done. There is no other law over my peace. Into thy hands I commend my spirit for the next 30 seconds. Feel the scepter slide out of the clenched hand and back to the one. Wait one heartbeat, just one, until the eye singles. You will know it by the change in climate. The jaw loosens. The chest opens. The love increases. From there, let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. Act if action is needed. Speak if speech is needed. But your word will be the surgeon's hand, not the fist of a frightened two. Try it where rubber meets road. Traffic. The blinker dives into your lane without a tithe to courtesy. Recognition. Heat is here. The two-power priest is waving incense. Inquiry. Do I believe this driver governs my weather? What am I protecting? My timetable, my throne. Yielding, Father, into thy hands, I return to one. Then decelerate or change lanes. No sermon to the windshield. Peace, be still to the inner sea first. The outer waves will have to obey their captain. Meeting. The colleague wraps your idea in his ribbon and calls it his recognition. The flare. Inquiry. Do I think my livelihood is sustained by a committee or by the one? What am I protecting? My nameplate. My narrative. Yielding. I die a millimeter, I return. Then, from composure, you may say, let me add context to that. Or you may schedule a quiet conversation after. It is amazing how truth, unheeded, walks straight to the point without raising its voice. Parenting. Milk overturns like Niagara. A teenager's eyes roll like marbles in a tin. Recognition. There's the spark. Inquiry. Am I making this moment a second law over our peace? Am I protecting my image as the one in control? Yielding, I relinquish the scepter. Love governs this house. Then correct, clean the spill together. Set the boundary clearly. Remove the privilege if needed, but do it with the steady hand of one power, not the snarl of two. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more translates to no heat. Clear direction. Do not make perfection your idol. The goal is not a museum of serene portraits. It is immediate recentering before sound leaves the mouth or force leaves the hand. You will do this 70 times 7 in a single day. Good. Each pass sands down the habit of worshiping appearances. If you miss and the arrow of a word has already flown, recognize that too without self-hatred. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. Confess the two-power moment, recall your government, make amends if amends are due, and step back into the beam. The failure is not proof of your unworthiness, it is proof of how eagerly the old monarch applies for rehire. Decline the application again. Let it be this simple. Name it, question it, lay it down. You can tie it to your breath if that helps. Inhale recognition, hold inquiry, exhale yielding. 3 seconds on a sidewalk can save 3 weeks in a museum of offenses. Outwardly cold-blooded, inwardly overheated, with love for God and man, that is the posture these beats protect. And when practiced until it becomes reflex, anger discovers it has nowhere to sit. The chair is taken. One power is enthroned, and even your nose starts shining like a window in the sun. Let us take this out of the chapel and onto the street. No violins, no incense, just 3 cases that rarely dress up for Sunday. And remember, the principle does not change with the costume. The same lie tries to enter each scene that there are 2 powers, and the same dominion sends it out with no supper. First, the insult. The word lands with the aim of a dart and the mercy of a fork. You feel the old monarch reach for the crown. I've been diminished, I must be restored. Stop. Recognition. Ah, the 2-power solicitor is at my door with a discount on rage. Inquiry. Do I believe a sentence crafted by a human tongue can clip the wings of the God self? Do I think the Christ in me is on a diet of compliments? What am I defending, my costume or my core? Yielding. I die a millimeter. Father, into thy hands. Then what? Sometimes silence is the cleanest garment. Answer not a fool according to his folly has spared many a soul from a duet of foolishness. Sometimes a simple, unheeded truth is required. That was unkind, and I won't receive it. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. Outwardly cold-blooded because you refuse the theater. Inwardly overheated with love because the one who insulted you is hypnotized by the same 2-power fog you just declined. Judge not because there's no right and wrong, but because you will not promote a shadow to sheriff. You will be surprised how often the insult melts when it cannot find a second power to spar with. Second, betrayal. Not the paper cut of rudeness, but the knife in the ribs, trust sold, confidences traded, a spouse, a partner, a friend who turns the key the wrong way. The human wants a bonfire. The God self asks for light, recognition. My hurt is real at the level of humanhood, but hurt is not the law. Inquiry. Do I believe my supply, safety, identity wrote in on their behavior? Who is my source, spirit, or a signature? Am I kneeling at the altar of payback to feel large for 5 minutes? Yielding, I return the throne, not my will, but thine. Now act, yes, act. Change the locks, close the account, dissolve the partnership, call the attorney if Caesar's realm must be addressed. Render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's. But do it without enshrining the betrayer as a second god over your future. You can end a relationship without beginning a prison. You can set a boundary without building a gallows. Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Wisdom says no more access. Harmlessness says no hatred carried. You may even bless from a distance. May you wake from the hypnosis that hurt us both, and you will discover the strangest arithmetic when wrath is not financing your decisions. Clarity saves you money, time, and organs. Third, public injustice. The headlines recruit you daily for the army of adrenaline. If you loved people, you would be angry, they say, and they pass the plate for your outrage, tithe, recognition. Here is the 2-power lie in a choir robe, asking me to worship a cause as if it were a god. Inquiry. Do I believe corruption, cruelty, or policy has jurisdiction over the kingdom within me? If I crown the cause with heat, do I not also crown the oppressor with my attention, becoming his staff by day and his dreamer by night? Yielding, I return to one. Blessed are the peacemakers, not the peace talkers. I will make peace by moving from a single eye. Then get up and move, vote, organize, write, fund, protect the vulnerable, sit in the room where budgets are born, stand on the corner where bodies are broken, but refuse addictive outrage. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. And good here is not a sugar word. It is the love that will not lie about power. March, yes, but let your cadence be peace I leave with you, not war I carry inside. You will be more effective than the angry twin standing next to you, because fatigue follows worship of shadows, and you have declined to build that altar. Do you see the one golden thread through all three? Anger offers you the driver's seat if you first agree the road is ruled by a second power. Dominion smiles, declines the keys, and then drives anyway from the front seat of one. You can take decisive action without granting hatred the steering wheel. Keep your hands on the wheel, your heart on the altar, your eyes single. Then your no will be clean, your yes will be strong, and your life will stop paying tolls to bridges that lead nowhere. Now we must tell the truth about this frame of bones and bells that we ride around the city in. It is a lovely instrument. It is a lethal tomb. It is a tomb if you are living inside of it, listening as if every twitch were a prophet. It is only a body if you are outside using it as an instrument, tuning it for love's music, and putting it back on the stand when the piece is over. Anger feels inevitable only when you have pitched your tent in the flesh and called it home. Then every horn is a threat, every raised eyebrow a spear. But if you live from the God self and wear the body like a garment, then even the surges that fly through the nerves are announcements, not commandments. Sensations become signals, they do not become sovereign. Do you think it's the God self that tightens your jaw? Do you think the Christ in you clenches a fist to hold the universe together? Or is it simply that the personal self, believing in two powers, summons the body to catch fire so it feels alive? Let's say it plain. The feeling is in the nerves, but the cause is in belief. We assign authority to an appearance, and the body loyally rings its alarm bell. That bell is not a sin. It is a bell. Take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat or what ye shall put on. Was not said to spirits without stomachs. It was spoken to those of us in sandals and skin to shift jurisdiction. Christ did not deny the stomach. He denied its claim to be a second government. So we do not deny the surge. We deny its throne. Anger lives in the nerves like a noisy tenant pans banging at midnight, stomping across the upstairs room, insisting it pays the rent and therefore owns the house. It does not. The deed belongs to one. Serve notice, not with hatred at your own body, but with authority. This is an instrument under God, not a drum for the two-power parade. Then cooperate outwardly with the inward yielding. Relax the jaw gently, take the teeth apart so the mouth need not be a vice. Unclench the hands, let the fingers uncurl until they remember they were made to bless, to build, to tend. Soften the eyes, release the squint that tries to pierce appearances with suspicion, and instead let the gaze widen until it can receive. These are not cosmetics, they are agreements. The body is saying to the soul, I concur, we return the scepter. Be still, and know that I am God. Be still where? In a cloud? No, in the trapezius, in the belly, in the brow. Stillness is not paralysis. It is a transfer of title. The still jaw says, I will not be used to pledge allegiance to a second power. The open palm says, I do not need a fist to hold my world together. The softened eye says, I will not hire suspicion as my Savior. In that stillness, the heat that once felt like life or death reveals itself as what it always was. Whether on the skin of a house you refuse to live inside, you may feel it pass, you need not move in. And if the tenant grows louder, threatens, rattles the pipes, calls you weak for not joining its noise, smile and increase the rent. By that I mean, increase your consecration. Whisper within, I die daily to the personal self that scares this body to feel important. I live from the God self that never trembles. Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost? A temple is not a tenant's den. It is a place where presence is recognized and honored. Honor that presence by how you sit, how you breathe, how you hold your tongue behind your teeth for one more breath until the single eye returns. Let the temple's keeper love itself decide whether a word or a silence, a step forward or a step back, is the next liturgy. We are not Stoics. We are stewards. We do not despise the flesh. We decline to worship it. When the nerves sing their old hymns of heat, we do not shout them down. We change the choir master. Outwardly cold-blooded to the body's theater, inwardly overheated with love for God and man, we practice a sane dominion. Feel fully, crown nothing. Deny neither sensation nor sorrow, deny only their claim to be a second law. Then the instrument, well tuned and lightly held, will play what it was made to play. Mercy that is muscular, truth that is tender, action that is clean, and when the piece is finished, you will set it down without living inside it, grateful, free, and ready for the next song the one would have you sing. Now we come to the quiet test, the one that needs no sermon notes and no audience applause, only your next breath. For one day, just one hold, no man in condemnation. Not the driver, not the pundit, not your blood, not yourself, and especially not the one who with a studied excellence seems to deserve it. Judge not, that ye be not judged, is not a threat from above. It is a set of keys for below. Condemnation is the locksmith of anger. Every time you turn it, you lock yourself inside the very room you think you are policing. So for this one day, put down the keys. Let us say plainly what condemnation is in the light of our theme. It is the two-power creed in a black robe. It says, you have power to define me, I have power to punish you. Two idols shaking hands across the courtroom. The God self, living from one, has no gavel to lift, there is only light to let in. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. A single eye does not close to wrong, it simply refuses to enthrone it. It may correct, it may refuse, it may dismiss a case from the docket of your life, but it will not crown error with your attention and then bow before it with heat. Make it practical. On waking, before your feet, greet the floorboards. Whisper the vow. This day I hold no one in condemnation. My peace is not rented to appearances. I die daily to the personal self that needs a villain to feel alive. I return to the God self that is life. Then choose the one who most tempts your robe to rustle the betrayer, the boaster, the bureaucrat, and place them consciously on the altar of one. Not to excuse, not to romanticize, but to stop kneeling at their statue. If correction is required, let truth do it without your venom. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. You will find your yea and your nay gain a strange authority when they are not fueled by prosecution. Carry a portable devotion to feed this vow. Slip a red-letter New Testament into your pocket or a small card with the Master's sayings, 3 or 4 will do. Forgive 70 times 7. Bless them that curse you. Let not your heart be troubled. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. When the heat rises, do not reach for a second opinion. Reach for the red letters. Read them under your breath until the inner sea hears, peace, be still, and remembers its captain. This is not superstition, it is sight. We are twisting the Bible right side up, using the words not as stones to throw at enemies, but as a lens to dissolve the two-power fog in us. Now test it in motion. The memory of yesterday's insult knocks like a salesman at noon, no appointment, a full briefcase. Refuse the meeting. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. That includes the one memory tries to seat in the dock. For the policy you oppose passes, the paper trembles to recruit you for the army of rage. Answer, Caesar, where Caesar must be answered. Vote, write, protect, but do not burn incense at the altar of fury. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. And here good is your refusal to believe in a second scepter over your peace. Set boundaries with a steady hand. End contracts that are crooked. Tell the truth without a tremor. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and keep your soul for God. Understand, refusing condemnation is not indulgence. It is not a sugar blanket thrown over fire. It is clarity. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Dissolve the courtroom and issue direction in one breath. That is our pattern. You can be as firm as the surgeon and as tender as the nurse while keeping your hands clean of hatred's dye. Outwardly cold-blooded to the theater, inwardly overheated with love for God and man, so love becomes effective because it is not busy worshiping the problem it intends to solve. At first, this will feel unnatural, even impossible, the way health feels unnatural to one who has long lived with a limp. Good. The unnaturalness is only the end of humanhood's reign announcing itself. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. Let that be your secret arithmetic. Each refusal to condemn is a small death to the self that must be right, and a small resurrection of the self that is already whole. And with every choice, the body becomes lighter, the nerves quieter, the mind clearer, because there is nothing left to God but the altar. Close the day as you opened it quietly. Review the hours not as a prosecuting attorney, but as a witness to grace. Where you failed, confess without drama and lay it down. Where you succeeded, give thanks without pride and lay that down too. Then vow the next small stretch, not a year, not a lifetime, just the next hour. Into thy hands I commend my spirit. One power, one love, no condemnation. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. When this becomes your habit, anger arrives to an empty chair, and love, impersonal and universal, takes the seat it never lost.